Hello, it's Nick from No Magnolia, and I thought I'd do a quick but quite fun tutorial about how to do a Star Wars opening titles crawl. There are plenty of these around already, but I just thought I'd do a fun one, hopefully and fairly quick as well. I'm going to assume that you don't know anything very much about After Effects, because if you did, you probably would know how to do it. And so I'm not going to be using too many keyboard shortcuts or other things like that, so hopefully you'll be able to follow along. This is what we're going to be making. And obviously we can't use the original Star Wars theme, so I've substituted that for something else appropriate. So there you have it. That's pretty much all of the ingredients. So you've got your crawl, your text disappearing into the distance. It sort of gets, if you can see this, it's slightly out of focus as it gets into the distance, and also fades out as you go further. It just sort of disappears into thin air there. And we've got some stars in the background, and we've actually also got letterbox bars top and bottom, which aren't necessary, but they are how the original footage, which is here, which has just come off YouTube, so don't kill me, how that actually appears. So yeah, anyway, how do we do this? So let's dive in and make a 1280. Oh, sorry, I said no keyboard shortcuts. So we go new composition. We go Star Wars, and we'll make it 1280 pixels wide and 720 high. And we're going to do this at 24 frames a second. You can do it at 25 or 30 or whatever, but let's just do 24 because that's what the original film was made in. Click OK, and you've got this blank composition here with nothing. Very, very boring. So what do we do first? Let's make the text. Had to just pause and restart because I actually didn't have these tools up at the top. And if you don't, you can go to Window, Tools, or Control 1 if you want to start learning keyboard shortcuts. And I would always advise that you do because it makes things quicker. Another shortcut, sorry, they're unavoidable in After Effects. The backtick, which is the key just left of your number 1 and just above the Tab key, will make any panel that you hover over while pressing it expand to full size. That's a very, very useful keyboard shortcut. So we're going to select our text tool and backtick over the main composition window and make our text. Now what we want is paragraph text. There are two types of text in After Effects. If you just click and then type, then it will carry on typing and go off the edge of the screen. What we want to do is actually restrain it to being in a box. So we can do that, and then we can type and it will lay it out properly. Now I've actually typed out this text, so rather than typing it here, I'm just going to put it in there. And to commit the changes, you press the Enter on the numeric keypad, like that. Don't worry about how it looks at the moment. It looks horrible. The text is Franklin Gothic Medium, and if you don't have this, there are probably free versions online, or you can buy it from somewhere like MyFonts or probably fonts.com, or just have a look on your favourite search engine for it. The main thing to think about is that it's yellow. The colour of yellow it actually is, or closest that I could get, if you double click on this little swatch here, you bring up this text picker here, and it's it's D7C958, which is a kind of yellowy colour, or you could type in 215 points of red, 201 of green, and 88 of blue, which is the same thing. I won't go into how hex values work, but just trust me, that's exactly the same thing. So it's this kind of yellowy colour anyway, and it's actually a bit finicky in terms of how it's spaced out. If you want to be really, really, really pedantic, you could go back to the original and then overlay, just download this from YouTube, and then overlay the text that you're typing onto this, and then you'd have to lay it out, be a bit sort of finicky about it, I'm not going to go into too much detail here about that, but the sorry, wrong one. Star Wars, come back, right. Most of the controls that you will need are the text size, which is that one, the vertical spacing, which is this one, and you can just grab and drag, the horizontal alignment, the kerning as it's called, tracking for this, which is basically letter spacing, and some of the letters are actually spaced out quite a lot. And if you scoot forward, this line, ultimate weapon, there's huge spaces between the letters there, and then other ones, the line just above that, secret plans to the empires, they're all quite crushed in together, so you probably actually have to do it line by line, which is always good fun, but yeah, anyway, where is my thing here? Right, that's the text, and that's most of what you'll need. I've got a couple of extra spaces in here. Now you'll notice that we can't actually see the bottom of this text here. If we move it up, so click the little selection tool, move it up, and then once you've started moving, you can hold down Shift and that will constrain it to moving either up or down or left or right. You can move it up like this. We've got more text here than will fit in this box, so if you double click on the text to select it all, and then you can drag out this bottom marker there, this kind of bottom edge, and then enter on your numeric keypad to commit, or you can click the select tool. So that's fine. Now we need to flip it because it's pointing away from us, going into the screen. It keeps disappearing. So let's bring it back. For this we will need a camera. So if you go to composition, layer, new, camera. Control-Alt-Shift-C, fact fans, is the slightly torturous keyboard combination, or probably Command-Alt-Option-C if you're on a Mac, I'd guess. After some fiddling around and deciding what the focal length should be, I settled on 28mm. If you don't know what focal length is, it's plenty on Google, Wikipedia and stuff that could help you with that, but basically it's how long the lens is, so how crushed up the text will look, and I will explain that in a minute. You need to apply this to 3D layers, so at the bottom you can go to this little button here, which is the layer switches, and this little tick box thing under the little box at the top is 3D layer. That makes that a 3D layer, and you can instantly see that you get these little kind of, this little what's called a manipulator appearing on the text layer, and what that means is that you can now push it into the screen, put it back, and you can also, if you use this tool, the rotation tool, you can grab one of these axes here, see where it changes to X, Y or Z, and drag and then rotate it, and that's starting to look a bit better. Now, I already said that the camera was had a 28mm focal length. If we wanted to change that, just to see how that would look, so layer, camera settings. I'm going to move this so that you can perhaps see focal length. So if I change the focal length to 50mm, you see that's a lot more foreshortened. If you make it even more so, 200mm, that's like putting a big zoom lens on our camera, and it's going to basically crop into, you know, this bit which is at 28mm, sort of here. Bit difficult to explain, but if you try it the other way and you change it to say 15mm, you see now that that stretches right into the screen and has got a real kind of angle on it that it doesn't have at 28. So 28 seems to be about the right focal length. If we twirl down this little triangle here, you get access to all of the layers properties. So the rotation is in the transform group, and what we're interested in here is the orientation. There are two kinds of rotation, and I won't go into too much detail, but there's orientation and there's then separate X, Y and Z rotation. The orientation for us is fine. What we want it at is about 289 degrees. That seems to me to be the kind of optimum. And at this point I'm going to bring in the footage and drop it underneath here, and then move it so that we get an idea of where we are. So then we can line up this text here. So I just pressed V, which is a shortcut for the selection tool, and we can move it up in, let's say, Z, like that. And actually, let's change the orientation to about, I don't know, about that. If you want to have finer control over something, by the way, you can hold down Control, and then that allows you to change things. You can probably see this is going up in 0.1 increments rather than whole increments. If you hold down Shift, it will go up in increments of 10, so it's quite a useful thing to be able to use. So that looks about right. We go down here and we can use this little eye tool here to shut off the Star Wars layer in the background, and that one is just going to shut the sound off to avoid copyright problems. The next question is, how do we make this sucker scroll? So there are several ways of doing this. Probably the easiest for us is to change the anchor point. The anchor point rather is this point, where this point here, the kind of pivot point I suppose, is relative to the edge of the layer. So in this text box, this is actually at 0, 0, 0. But if we grab the Y and move it back and forth, you instantly get your Star Wars scroll. So I mean, that's kind of some of the job done for us already. We're going to make it better than that though. We now need to set a keyframe. We want the start. So we're going to click this little stopwatch icon to make a keyframe, and that will make a little keyframe in the timeline. And then if we go down to our Star Wars layer here and then turn on the eye and then scoot forward, let's grab this and drag it back to when it's first comes on the screen here, like that, and then we'll scoot forward and to the end, and it fades out about there. So we want to move our text layer so it goes off screen about the same time, and we probably need to drag this Y coordinate up a bit more like that. So are we about in the right place, more or less? Yeah, I mean, I've said that the text is a bit finicky and we're not going to spend too long on that. I think I'd probably make this text a little bit bigger, and I might actually also move the Y coordinate down, and that doesn't affect the anchor point, so that doesn't affect these keyframes that we've set, but it will make actually go back to the beginning, make sure we're over the first keyframe, and then scrub that so that we get this coming in at about the same time. This would be a kind of thing that you'd spend a bit of time doing properly, but we don't have a lot of time to do that. So let's assume that we're happy with that text now, and we'll go back and turn off that. You could just stop there. I'm not going to do that. This text also needs to fade out. So if we turn on the Star Wars background and also this third one along, that's the solo switch. Now you can see near the top of the screen the Star Wars text basically fades away into nothingness, and the way to replicate that in After Effects is with what's called a track matte. So if you go to Layer, New, and solid. So we're going to make a solid layer, and so just click OK. It's currently black. You can make it any colour you want. And then in Effects and Presets, which if you haven't got it up, would be in Window and then Effects and Presets. Ignore the dog in the background. There is a ramp effect. So you can just type ramp into the search box and then you get a gradient ramp, as it's called now. And you can drag that onto the new black solid that we've just created. This will make a very pretty black and white sort of gradient ramp going from top to bottom of the screen. If you click on it, the name gradient ramp up there, and then you can hold down space and drag with the mouse, you see there'll be two little things, kind of point locators, one up here and one will be down at the bottom here. Incidentally, I'm rolling with my mouse wheel to kind of zoom in and out. That's just a shortcut. So you can grab this. Again, once you've started moving, hold down Shift. And what we want to do is we want to fade out from about here up to there. Don't worry that it's this kind of black and white band. We won't see it. Go down to the text layer, make sure this is just above the text layer, that's crucial. Go down to the text layer and in the track matte column, if you go to Luma Matte, black solid 1, that picks up the luminance, the amount of white basically, in the layer immediately above it, which in this case is black solid 1. And that creates a fade from where this layer is white here to where it's black up here. So it's very useful. If you click this little button here, which toggles the transparency grid, you can see, not very clearly actually, but if you change that to black, you can see that this is actually becoming transparent. So this is where things are transparent. It's this little checkerboard pattern, and you can see that it's solid colour here and fades out to transparent up there. So I'll just undo that to make it yellow, and I'll click this off again. So that's that. Then we probably want to create a background, because the original has these nice pretty stars in it. So let's do that. Create a new solid, layer, new, solid, and then we can make it black again. And then we can go in our Effects and Presets and choose Fractal Noise. You just type fract and you'll appear in the list there. Drag it on the black solid number 2 and you get this nice kind of fractal pattern. It looks like fabric or clouds or something. Fractal noise is incredibly useful in After Effects, and you find yourself using it quite a lot. It's quite a complicated effect, so I won't go into all the details, but it gives you a kind of continuously varying pattern, which goes from, in this case, black or dark grey, it does go black but not very often, to white. And we want to make a star field out of that. So what we're going to do is, in the transform group down here, just twirl that down and then drag the scale right down so it's like 2 or 3. Then we need to bump the contrast up and drag the brightness way down, and then you'll start to see most of it disappear, and this kind of quite reasonable looking star field. And if you want less stars, you can drag the brightness down even more, and if you want more, you can just drag it up. But that's basically the essence of it. So it's just fractal noise applied to a solid layer. This is obviously obscuring the text, so you need to drag this layer to the bottom now, and it's starting to look a bit like Star Wars. You can now make the black bars top and bottom. The best way to do this, I guess, would be to actually make something in the same aspect ratio as this, as the original one, which would be Academy ratio, probably 2.35 to 1. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to cheat and do what this looks like, which is to put black bars top and bottom. Later on you see them very clearly. So let's make another new solid, and this goes above the previous layer, so we're going to put it above everything, I guess. That masks the stars and it masks the text as well. And then back tick again to maximise this window. You can just drag it up, and I'm not going to be too precise with this. It doesn't really matter too much for this. Then you can duplicate this layer, so you go to layer, edit, duplicate, Control D, maximise this window and then drag it down, and that looks okay. One final thing you can do is add some depth of field in the camera. So if you twirl down this little triangle here and you go to camera options, you can turn depth of field on. Depth of field is a side effect of lenses, and it basically means that not everything is in focus perfectly all at once. There is a slight depth of field effect on this. This was actually shot optically on film for the original film, and so obviously they didn't use After Effects, it was way before that. And so they used a real camera, and therefore there was some depth of field. So let's recreate that. The focus distance, after some experimentation, I reckon is about 750 pixels, or that will work for this anyway. And we can increase the aperture, which basically increases the amount of blur. If you just drag that way up, then you can see that's an insane amount of blur. We just want a little bit, just a subtle amount, so maybe about 35. And you can change this from a fast rectangle to something a bit more like a lens, which is like a nonagon or something like that. And that is fine. You get this subtle blur in the background, which is kind of as it should be, really. And then you're pretty much done. So you've got your fade out happening at the top of the screen, and you've got your text, which you can change to anything, obviously, that you want. And the good thing about After Effects is that you can just click in this, and even though it's 3D, you can just add stuff as you want and kind of see pretty much instant feedback. So there it is. I hope that's been useful, and tune in next time, I suppose.